harvested nearly 200 kilograms of fresh fruit and vegetables from this space alone in just 4 months between the beginning of July and the 30th of October. That is nearly the weight of an average wild male lion. And it was actually a bad growing year in this tunnel, which I'll share more about as we go through the video. Polytunnels can be really valuable growing spaces, offering protection and more favourable microclimates for slightly tender plants. Hugh Richards, who has one of our favourite gardening YouTube channels, recently calculated that one of his new polytunnels would take just 2 seasons to pay off with the fruit and veg that it generates. We are so lucky to have 3 polytunnels like this that we got from Premier Polytunnels, who we find super friendly and helpful to deal with, especially with all of our questions and worries when we were building the first of these tunnels about 3 or 4 years ago. And we are still learning each year how to make the best use of the space all year round. There really are so many possibilities, benefits and uses. So here's what we grew and harvested between May and October, together with an overview on the growing season and what we learned this year. Wow, it is hot in there. Okay, so from tunnel 1, I have just harvested 12 cucumbers, an aubergine, a green pepper which had snapped off, cherry tomatoes, big tomatoes, and some mild spicy red peppers. We grew nearly 20 kg of tomatoes in this tunnel, which was actually a bad year, with some massive heat fluctuations seemingly affecting the fruit setting early in the season, resulting in our cropping starting much later than normal. And this really made a difference on our overall yield, as most were beefsteak tomatoes in this tunnel, which take longer to ripen than smaller varieties like cherry tomatoes. Luckily, our second tunnel was full of our favourite cherry tomatoes, and so we had plenty overall, and any tomatoes that we didn't eat fresh were either frozen whole or turned into a delicious tomato paste that we also freeze down and have to use for the whole of the year. Will you just look at the size of that? One of the crops that always does us proud and feeds us well in both summer and winter is the trombone courgette. This awesome plant has the added bonus of cropping as a green courgette in early to mid-summer, and then if you leave the bigger fruit to mature, they harden off and become winter squash, similar to butternut squash. And you can find out more about this fun and productive crop in this video here. And these beautiful fruits really bumped up our overall yield, giving us a massive 49 kg of fruit this year from just this polytunnel. We always end up growing way too many cucumbers, and this year was no different. We grew 35 kilograms of telegraph cucumbers and 22.4 kilograms of Armenian or yard-long cucumbers. Long, beautiful, ribbed. And these are actually a muskmelon, but they taste just like a cucumber. We were passing as many as we could over the fence to our neighbours, taking them to our family and leaving bags full at one of our contract gardening jobs for the residents to enjoy. And of course we were eating as many as we could ourselves. It wasn't our best year for aubergines. We still enjoyed and treasured 6.5 kg of them, but this was a lot less than we should have had for the number of plants. I think the problem was they were getting swamped by the sweet potato vines which we had growing underneath, which limited the light where the first fruits would normally have been forming. We always grow in layers in our polytunnels to try and maximise the space, but this was the first year I tried this combination and I won't be doing that one again. But we have had one semi-disaster in this tunnel, tunnel 1. And the sweet potatoes were actually a complete disaster in here this year, which has made a huge big difference on our overall yield weights. It should have been a lot higher if we'd had a good harvest of sweet potatoes. And then I realised that we've had a rat in and he's dug under or chewed off nearly all of the sweet potatoes. As the plants would have just been starting to produce tubers, rats got in here and chewed through all of the main stems and any forming potatoes. But with the nature of how sweet potatoes grow and the vines re-rooting, it meant that the foliage all kept on growing and it was hard to see exactly what was going on below. So we didn't get any beautiful Molokai purple sweet potatoes to harvest this year, just a couple that I rescued that will hopefully grow us slips for next year. And when I finally cleared the vines back, I could see that the rats had completely wrecked the beds, digging and tunnelling and mixing all of our compost and wood chip together. And they're still causing havoc in here and in the tunnel next door, digging up any scraps of sweet potato and roots that they can find. And we're really struggling to get them out of here. They won't take any sort of bait that we put down. So the next thing I'm going to try is putting things in here that they don't like the smell of, which I've been looking into, because I'm really keen to get this bed sorted out and get an early crop of broad beans planted in here. We harvested 4 kilograms of hot chili peppers in here, a mix of jalapenos, cyclone and cayenne pepper, which all grew really well this year. And it also felt like it was a good year for sweet peppers or capsicums too. We enjoyed 7.3 kilograms of beautiful, juicy red and yellow peppers in September and October. They were abundant for those 2 months and we were eating them in everything. And we felt pretty proud to have a crop like this in abundance. It was very rewarding. It's funny because I always thought of peppers as a summer veg before growing them myself. Now I realise, at least in this country anyway, they are an autumn harvest. Ground cover on this side, which is starting to come on, is our watermelons, and we love growing our own watermelons. It is so satisfying, because we see watermelons as a tropical fruit. So yeah, growing your own tropical fruit, pretty epic. And you can see here, we've just got some babies starting to form up. Another of our heavyweight crops that we really look forward to is watermelons. And we grew 31 kg of watermelons in here. Probably a bit more than that actually, but the rats got started on our last melon before we did. Wow, look at that big watermelon that I've got there. Just spotted that one. Our biggest fruit weighed in at 7 kg and is even more satisfying to grow and eat than the sweet peppers. A real treat and so much sweeter and fresher than anything you can buy. Cape gooseberries are a favourite autumn fruit that grows incredibly well for us with the added protection and heat that the polytunnel provides. We harvested 6.1 kilograms of these little fruits from just 4 plants up to the 31st of October. Cape gooseberries to me are one of the ultimate fruits that we can grow for ourselves for an autumn harvest. I've just harvested this many Cape gooseberries off of just 2 plants this morning. Overall, they have given us more fruit as we kept harvesting all through November as well. Probably around another 3 kg at least, but for the purposes of this record, we just weighed for the peak growing season between the 1st of July and the 31st of October. It was a good year for Lofers, and we harvested 12 fruits from just 2 plants, totaling just over 5 kg, which is the best they've ever done for us. That is going to give us a really good amount of sponges to use over the next year. Over the last few years, I've been observing the temperature and climate difference between the top and the bottom of our tunnel, where we're on a slight slope here. And it's amazing how much even this changes the microclimate from end to end. I've previously only grown the Lofers down lower in the tunnel, so this year I tried them up the warmer end, and they definitely responded well to the change. We had 3 okra plants, which we grow as another fun thing to add diversity to our diet. One of the plants grew quite well and gave us about 500 grams of fruit. There should have been a bit more, but I did miss harvesting a few of these, unfortunately. We harvested around 1 kg of Tulsi, or holy basil, in here, which I absolutely love as a medicinal herb. I dry it for teas and I tincture it fresh too. And it's said to be an adaptogenic herb which may help our bodies respond to stress and also maintain a natural balance. It has many other benefits and is a very sacred plant in Ayurvedic medicine and in certain cultures, and I love the taste of it too. We also grew New Zealand spinach in here and lots of self-seeded nasturtiums, which we harvested for the leaves and the flowers for beautiful salads. But I didn't keep track of any of the weights of these as they were just so light each time. The flowers you can eat as well. Again, they look and taste great on salad. They've got a little bit of a spicy taste. And then also when the plant seeds, you can use the seeds, you can pickle them and use them like capers. So that's our 188 kilograms of harvest from one polytunnel in just 4 months. On a year when a lot of our heavy croppers really underperformed. We should have had a lot more tomatoes and a whole pile of sweet potatoes as well. And now we're cropping a really good amount of winter salad from our second sowing in this polytunnel for the season. And hopefully we'll have lots of herbs, spinach and kale to see us right through the hungry gap too. We hope to be cropping all of these beautiful greens right up until replant in this tunnel around the middle of May. I think this really shows how valuable a polytunnel can be when growing food for yourself. They really help you to extend your growing season and grow a more diverse range of food to enhance your diet. Okay, so next year my plan is to grow more sun gold tomatoes in here to give us an earlier crop and less beefsteak tomatoes. So hopefully this will extend our cropping time overall and make better use of the space. If I grow the sweet potatoes in here again, I'm going to try them on the other side under the cucumbers and trombone courgettes, which tend to crop quite heavily naturally anyway. And then I'll put the watermelons under the aubergines and the peppers, as they tend to grow less densely. So we'll try that combination next year. The other thing I learned this year was to make sure I grow dwarf marigolds. Our marigolds that we had as companion plants for our tomatoes were absolutely beautiful this year, but it was a lot of work keeping them cut back where they were so massive. We hope you enjoyed this video today and seeing the possibilities and quantities of food that you can grow in a polytunnel in the UK. We would really love it if you could click the thumbs up button just below this video, and also leave us any comments or questions if you did enjoy this video too. It's also a great help if you can share our videos on social pages where you think it will be enjoyed, and we really look forward to seeing you here again at Freedom Forest soon. Thanks for watching, guys. Peace and plants.